Well, thanks for staying with us on the program this morning as we look to join our next guest virtually who joins in from Asaba, the Delta State capital. I'm talking about one man who wears the dual cap of being the Commissioner for Information and the Commissioner for Works, Rural and Riverine Roads, Honorable Charles Aniagwu. Welcome, Honorable. Hello, can you hear me, sir? Well, whilst the connection is buffering, Honorable Charles Aniagwu will join us to discuss boosting Delta's economy and turning global partnerships into local prosperity. Now, and if that connection is stable now, and I believe he can hear me. Honorable Charles, can you hear me? Good morning.
I can hear you very well. I can hear you very well. Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show again this morning. And let's quickly start with a follow-up to the earlier conversation we're having around the more agenda. Let's discuss the infrastructure and partnerships that currently exist between the Delta State governor and the global community and how this translates into local prosperity for the Delta people.
Well, thank you very much for bringing us up this morning to share with you and indeed through you with other Nigerians on a whole lot of milestones that we've recorded in data and the need for us to be able to give more vent to the aspirations that our governor, the vision carrier, has also been able to put on the table, and then leading those of us who are his lieutenants to assist him in delivering on those agenda, particularly 4 thematic areas, which centers on meaningful development, creating opportunities for all, and then of course, as well as bringing about realistic reforms in the midst of enhanced peace and security. There have been a whole lot of policy priorities around these 4 thematic areas, which he has been able to put on the table with a view to ensuring that he delivers on a number of these issues. Now, one, you asked about how we are fostering a relationship with the global community. We have realized, following the lead of the governor, that there is nothing like Nigerian standard when it comes to a whole lot of issues, particularly in building infrastructure, because a number of these infrastructure started from the international community, and so there is a global standard, and that if you don't do it right, you are not going to get value for money. And our governor is a man who sticks to excellence and believes that our money should work for us, which is why he has been able to bring in a whole lot of prudence, a whole lot of accountability, and a whole lot of probity in the management of the resources of Delta. Today, as we speak, the governor likely or kindly to any form of shoddy jobs, and so some persons in the international community appear to have recognized that, which is why recently we were invited to a global infrastructure forum, the International Infrastructure Investment Forum and Exhibition, which is meant to bring in a whole lot of high-level contracting firms to discuss on how to move forward in the course of advancing a global infrastructure. So what the government in data is saw that needed him to also compare with what is being done in other parts of the world, particularly advanced countries. Happy that we're in Macau, a special administrative region of China, to be able to also collaborate with other persons in the international community, view to ensuring that we take our own agenda to the next level and then secure some form of international partnership in that regard.
Now, these partnerships, at the moment, if you are to rate the governor's midterm scorecard, what are some of the local industries you would say are credited or should take the credits for this midterm performance?
Well, let me, before proceeding to answer your question, to inform you that our governor has scored first among the community of states in our country, and not to talk of our own dear state, to be the first to bring forward a midterm address where he had to proceed to the House of Assembly to give account of what he has done in the past 2 years, and then also put forward some projections as to what he intends to do in the next 2 years of his first tenure by the grace of God. Now, you asked about some local or indigenous contractors or possibly firms in our state that have also contributed to the milestones we have recorded. We have had a whole lot of collaboration with both indigenous firms and some international contracting firms across sectors, be it in the area of road construction, where I play a critical role by the grace of God, thanks to the love and opportunity given to me by the governor. And then also in the area of housing, where we also have a very competent colleague of mine also holding sway. In the area of education, where we're also expanding the classrooms as well as other facilities that are needed for our children to have a more comfortable learning environment. Or even what we also recorded in the health sector, where a whole lot of hospitals, no fewer than 150 of them, have been revamped at the level of primary health care. And then a number of secondary healthcare institutions and tertiary healthcare institutions are also being given a new lease of life, in addition to equipment that are being procured, such as MRI scans, and then of course some other CT scanners, all those to ensure that we're able to at least raise the tempo of our healthcare services to a much higher level. But if you want me to be specific, perhaps that may amount to some form of advertorial, but there are a whole lot of firms that are working with us.
In terms of the specificity, you don't need to name the companies involved, much like you've listed those in health and given us projections as to what they have been able to impact. You can also specify some of the roads linking the riverine communities that would make for better access to the agricultural produce.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I'm happy you are giving me that privilege to do so. Today, the governor has, through his intervention in the completion of the Ughelli-Asaba Road, reduced the travel time between the state capital, which is Asaba, and our commercial city, which is Warri, by about 30 minutes. Today, you can travel to Warri in less than 2 hours, as against the 2 hours, 30 minutes that it was before he came in. This was done by ensuring that that particular corridor is completed. Of course, also housing a twin bridge, Bull Bridge, and a whole lot of assets which has been created along that corridor. As we also speak, our brothers and sisters are smiling because the Trans-Warri Road is wearing a new lease of life. That road is almost fully completed. The bridges are now completed. We're only just trying to clean up the access routes, both the approach and the descent of some of those bridges. So, but you can easily now travel from the main Warri straight to Ode-Ishekiri, passing through that corridor. Of course, there was the need for, according to, for us to be able to have a link through one of the river course. But because of heavy ships that ply that corridor, it might not be easy in the short time to be able to link it up by bridge, except you have to proceed to build a hanging bridge. Perhaps that could be another topic for another day. But these other 19 bridges have been given a new lease of life, and our people can afford to transport themselves to their different communities along that corridor. Now, a bridge linking to our brothers in some part of Burutu, particularly a bridge we call the Ayokromo Bridge. For a very long time has been in the works. The governor has seen the need to place it on ISPO, and of course the contract has been determined, and a new contractor is also handling it. So, which means a new lease of life have also been brought to bear in the construction of that particular bridge. Is one very long bridge of about I think about 18 spans. Each span is about 34 meters. So, and you have about 612 meters stretch of that particular bridge, and you know what that means. Now, beyond that particular bridge, we have also been able to complete the Beneku Bridge. The Beneku Bridge links our people in Indokwa West with their kids and kin in Indokwa East. Before now, they used to convey their vehicles, goods, and services through what we call a pontoon. Besides completing that bridge, he has also been able to clean up the approach as well as the descent on that particular corridor, such that our people in Ndokwa East now can afford to make use of it. One very wonderful news that today has made the people of Ndokwa East to be quite happy with the administration is the award of the contract for the construction of the Abo Akarai Road. That road is passing through a very difficult terrain. It has a bridge, and that entire stretch will cost as much as 29 billion. Decided to bring up that to the school, and by the grace of God, that has been approved. And in the not too distant time, we are looking forward to seeing the contractor mobilized to site. We are hoping that in a period of 24 months, that also other particular corridor would have been opened up. We also have a very special bridge linking up the people in Orere. Orere is in a place in Ugeli South with about 15 communities across the river, linking them up with their brothers in both Ugeli South and Ugeli North, where you have a whole lot of oil exploration. And my brother, one of the reasons why today Delta remains number one in oil production in Nigeria, and we have also remained the most peaceful in the Niger Delta, is because our God has been able to, that is given much is expected. A whole lot of oil activities happen in these riverine communities. And the best thing we can do for them is also to take development to them so that they can see the blessing rather than asking them to proceed to the pipeline by way of saying that it's in the pipeline. These projects are no longer in the pipeline, and that's the way it is.
Now, Honorable Commissioner, sir, it's also on the correlationship with this vast construction in terms of employment and job creation. Conversations elsewhere in Nigeria has been that expatriates take up the more juicy construction award of contracts. In Delta, has there been a balance in the expatriates' local content sharing of these contract awards?
Well, first of all, it will be a disservice to the people to give a 5-star project to a 2-star contractor. Even when you were born, God has made it in such a way that by the time you come, you suckle, you begin to crawl, you walk, you stand, you begin to run, and then you embark on the speed lane. If you wake up and ask a 2-year-old baby, because you so much love that baby, to go and engage in a 100-meter race, be rest assured that you're not going to win that race. And we are desirous of winning in delivering our infrastructure. We are looking forward to our contractors at the local level, that's indigenous contractors, to begin to first of all engage in these other smaller projects. Today, some of them have been able to get to the level of building short bridges. Some of them have also gotten to the level of constructing as much as a 20-30 kilometer stretch of roads. Then, as I also speak to you, the Orere Bridge that I mentioned is being handled by an indigenous firm, and they are doing very, very well. But the much more complex ones, we believe that we needed to bring in some of these expatriate companies that have garnered experience over the years. The good thing is that there is a whole lot of local content in terms of the engagement of labor. So you see that majority of the people that are engaged in the services, in the course of the construction, are also our people. That means that a whole lot of the funds also comes back by way of the salaries and wages they receive. But beyond that, don't forget that the majority or the bulk of the materials that are deployed in the construction of these structures, be it the area of cement, or the area of sand, or the area of bitumen that are deployed, or even some of the iron rods that are also deployed, are also sourced largely locally. So to that extent, you see that there is a whole lot of reinvestment of these resources in our own local economy. And so we must have that mix until such a time that we are convinced that our local engineers have the capacity to be able to carry on all sorts of jobs, irrespective of how complex they are. So we are moving on. We keep encouraging them. We are also good enough. We are also heavy in terms of intra-local government roads, to the extent that every year now we are budgeting as much as 2.1 billion to cater to some intra-local government roads. That is without prejudice to the larger budgetary provision that takes care of roads that connects one local government to the other, or some very, very long local government stretch of roads where we deploy other budgetary provisions. So to answer your question, strictly speaking, we are having a marriage between our local or indigenous contractors and these expatriate firms who we believe that are also in the course of time and enabling us to have some form of shared knowledge between them and our indigenous contractors.
Well, Honorable Commissioner, I can't agree with you any differently. China, for instance, has taken the lead in construction and engineering, and bringing it down to how it relates to Delta, I would refer back again to the Makwa visit, in which the governor and his team of delegates were in China for a visit. The outcomes of this visit, beyond the synergies in construction and engineering, what other areas of knowledge exchange is the Delta State government exploring through its China visits?
Well, let me make it very clear that once you have such collaboration, the benefits are usually both within the short term, the mid-term, and of course the long term. Then sometimes you also have medium to the long term advantages. But even when you talk about the short term advantage, that we are exposed to international giants in the area of construction also exposes us to some level of knowledge, and also goes a long way to validate what the governor is doing in the state, particularly in the area of ensuring that the projects are done to give value to the people of Delta, and that the money being spent is also being realized at the level of a utility to the people. And so, if you are doing something, and by the time you get to such a forum, and you see that the individuals are saying that this is the way to do it, you are encouraged that you are on the right track. You now begin to think of how you can strengthen your effort in that direction. Then if in the event of, in the course of such interaction, there are also new ideas that are being propagated, you are also able to bring it up to support whatever you're doing. That's in the short term. Then in the long term, you are also able to know that there are certain things that need to be done in terms of realizing that there are some firms you may not have known that they have certain capacity, and visiting them in their environment, you are able to realize that they have such capacity. There is a saying in the part of the world where I come from, that if you set up a trap and then the rabbit comes into it, you may not realize how rich or wealthy that rabbit is because you caught it very cheap. But if you decide to engage in the business of rabbit hunting, and you are able to approach the rabbit hole, the effort you will put in will enable you to know that sometimes the rabbit even have room and parlor in that hole that it has dug for itself. How do I mean? That visit to China for us makes us to appreciate that a company like the ECC is stronger than we think, because we're able to realize that it's more or less a construction firm on behalf of the Chinese government. So it's not just a private firm. And you are able to also see a whole lot of jobs that they have undertaken in the area of bridges, in the area of building, in the area of roads construction, ditto a number of other construction firms that we saw. And so once we came back, we are now able to begin to now do some form of further analysis of who we are engaging and the capability of the individuals who are engaging. Because the governor does not believe that you must sacrifice quality on the altar of brotherhood. And that is what makes Uborowori very, very distinct amongst the committee of governors in the country today. He believes that if an naira, Deltas must have value for that 10 naira. And if you come to Delta today, you will see that the Uborowori approach is indeed repositioning our state. We are very, very solvent today, thanks to his ability to be very, very prudent. We have not thought about visiting anybody, not outside this country or within this country, for the purpose of obtaining any loan, because of that prudent management of resources. And unlike what we hear, that when people visit China or some of these places, they are looking for who will send loan to them. We did not go to China to look for loan.
I was just about coming to that, because I was going to ask how you intend to fund some of the humongous projects.
On account of the prudence he has brought to bear in project management, and we give God the glory for all that.
Now, on issue of fundings, much as you have dispelled the insinuations that the China visit had some loan implications to it, on funding for some of these projects, particularly the bridges.
No. I said it doesn't have any loan implication.
Some of the bridges which run into millions, are there any funding hurdles? How does the government intend to come about the funds to fund those projects?
Today, as I speak to you in Delta, the moment the government approves a contract for you, we make 40% of that mobilization, irrespective of the amount of that contract, available to the contractor. There are a whole lot of gains from that. Number one is making it easy for the contractor to proceed with speed. It's giving us the strength also to be able to challenge contractor to stay with one to the terms of the agreement, in terms of ensuring that he sticks to the bill of engineering measurement and evaluation, in which case you cannot move away from the bill of quantities that are very well spelled out in that BEME. 2, we can afford to harass you with respect to the speed, and you cannot afford to begin to use wheelbarrow and shovel to begin to construct a road where you may need some earth moving machines. Because we have paid you, we are enabled and empowered both morally and otherwise to be able to challenge you, and you do not have any excuse. You cannot tell us that the bank is delaying you because we have made that fund available to you. But that's not all. Under the Oborowori watch, once you generate a certificate, irrespective of the amount you generate, Oborowori does not pay you 50% of that certificate. Oborowori ensures that 100% of the certificate generated are paid because of the prudence I talked about. When we boast that we are solvent, we are not saying so because we just want to make mouth. We are today the #1 state in this country that is only giving as much as that 40% mobilization. That we may even move beyond 40%. And that once you bring your certificate, just bring it on. Oborowori pays. So long as we have been able to certify that that job has been done. And so we are not worried about how to pay for the projects we are awarding. We are looking at what we have in our purse, and we are following what we have in our purse to award projects. We are not playing to the gallery. The governor is a man who believes that he has to be very, very realistic. He is a man that understands the streets. That same way he understands the management of our, and we give God the glory that our money is working for us.
Now, Honorable Commissioner, sir, you have spoken quite like a man that knows his onions, particularly in your role as Commissioner of Rural and Riverine Roads. Now, let's talk about the other hat you wear as the Chief Image Maker of Delta State. How far has your 2 years in office been? Let's talk about you now. Let's leave the governor and come to your dealings. We've listened to part of it. It's been more on the Commissioner of Works angle. Let's talk about the Commissioner of Information, Chief Image Maker. Let's hear how far you've done in your 2 years.
Well, thank you very much. The fact is that in the area of handling the information of the state, I've just been here this year because I started as Commissioner for Works, Rural and Riverine Roads. And then later on, through the magnanimity of the governor, I was also asked to take charge of the information ministry with a view to letting the people know what we are doing. The good thing is that in Delta, my job has been made very, very easy by the fact that the governor is working. So I do not have to cook up any story. I challenge anybody, particularly the few persons who may want to be in any of the opposition parties, to come up and say what we have said we are doing that is not real. That is why when anybody comes to TV to want to paint pictures that are at variance with reality, the moment we put the facts on the ground, you just see them, they no longer come back again. They become like the Egyptians you see today that you will see no more. And so I am happy that I do not have to cook up stories. I am happy that I do not have to invent reports for me to be able to communicate what is happening in Delta. We're always very, very proud to invite anybody, anytime, to come to Delta. Not long ago, we had a whole lot of very, very senior editors, veterans in the field of mass communication and journalism. They visited us. They went round. We challenged them to go to, they mentioned anywhere they want to go to, so we do not have to teleguide them. And let us show them what we have done. They were quite happy with what we are doing. They were pleased with the quality of jobs that are being done. They were much more pleased with the fact that once you provide the certificates for a job done, that Oborowori pays. And so that gives us a whole lot of strength that we are able to meet up with our contractual obligations. It's what makes us unique among the Committee of States. No state in this country, and I dare say no state in this country, I stand to be corrected, that can afford to pay for any certificate that is raised whenever it is raised and pay 100%. That is happening because of the Oborowori style of governance. And I ask you, apologies to Peter Obi, to fact check me on this particular issue as to what we are doing in Delta. Bring it up. Yours is to bring it up. But be sure that that certificate has been genuinely confirmed by the relevant ministry. And so, as the Commissioner for Information in Delta, I can tell you that we are not even having enough time to communicate the many things that is being done in Delta. But once you come, you are able to see more and realize that there are many things that we are not even putting out there in the media. Do you know what? Governor Oborowori does not even have the time to embark on project commissioning. because he's very busy. He's one governor who does not even engage in the issue of traveling up and down. Since he came in, he has traveled very few times, and all of them have to do with very productive ventures to represent the state. Not more than 3 times in 2 years. When you see him in Abuja, go and check. There must be a forum that concerns governors or a business that concerns Delta. So this is somebody who is very much committed, and so that makes my job very, very easy. In addition to the fact that we have also a whole lot of members of the State Executive Council who are also doing their best in their different sectors, and with that, you see that kind of collaboration that giving out the information is not so much of a work for me. In any case, there are still a whole lot of lieutenants who assist me, of either SSAs or SAs, and as well as Chief Press Secretary, in addition to executive assistants, who helps me to be able to cover some flanks whenever maybe possibly I'm engaged in some rural routes inspection and any other activity that may have been assigned to me. So I can assure you that it has been quite wonderful working with the governor and my other colleagues in the information sector.
Well, quite interesting listening to you reel out some of the duties and roles and the partnership amongst agencies and ministries in Delta. In closing, I'm aware you have other functions to attend to. In closing, I'd like to quickly on the more agenda for the next 2 years.
Well, we have already started the next 2 years. We started from the 30th of May, when, of course, in May 29, we had a 2-year celebration. The next of the next 2 years, which is where we're already in. It is in the course of that next 2 years now I'm telling you about the road that leads to connect our people in Abo Akara in Indukwa East. In the course of that next 2 years, to link up our people in the region. In the course of that next 2 years, we have now also acquired as part of the commencement, acquired a whole lot of medical equipment to give of life number of our hospitals, particularly the tertiary hospitals. The governor had made it clear that we must have MRI scan machines across the 3 senatorial districts. That was part of the discussion we had yesterday. Today, the governor has also approved that lecturers who are associate professors now can afford to also retire at the 70. That's for our lecturers and those who impart knowledge in our different universities. We're in the process of taking a second look at the issue of the commencement grade for begin to suffer the Japa syndrome that has become prevalent across the length of this country. The governor told us yesterday that Deltas have not even seen anything in terms of project execution and policy implementation. And so we are quite hopeful and optimistic that in the next 2 years, a whole number of things we have thought about. The governor says even in the course of electioneering campaign from 2026, that he will be very, very much involved in governance, and he will be governor, commissioning, awarding projects, and not just to be organizing rallies. And so, if the governor has made that promise, and having shown that he's a promise keeper in the last to a much more progressive in the course of these last 2 years, and what makes it very, very exciting for us is his ability to manage resources so prudently, and his approach to governance. Can you imagine a governor who assembles all his aides, particularly commissioners, and say, please, everybody come and sit down. Tell me, what do you think? Don't come here and praise anybody. Where do you think we are failing? Where do you think we need to be able to make some differences? And what are you doing in your different ministries? Let us do some. At the end of the day, he's able to tell A, you are doing well, you need to also further step up. B, you need to catch up. So that at the end of the day, as a people, we are able to move as one administration. He is a team player. That governor that I'm talking about, like that midfielder, who is able to realize that for you to score a goal, you need to be able to redistribute the football to the different flanks, so that both number 7 and number 10 are able to collaborate for the purpose of winning a match. And that's why we're winning, and we're winning very comfortably.
Well, it's interesting with the football analogy to know that we have you, the chief image maker, in the #1 position in goal to keep the clean sheets for Delta State. Well, Honorable Charles Aniagwu, we must thank you for keeping in touch with ADB and to be able to keep on our core mandate of spotlighting and telling the Niger Delta story. We'll be looking to follow up on more developmental strides of the Governor Sheriff Oborewore's administration in the coming months.
Let me also seize the opportunity to appreciate ADBN, because even if you are new in the broadcast industry sector in Nigeria, you are actually covering a whole lot of ground. I'm noticing your milestones, and I am hopeful that in the not too distant time, you'll be occupying a very, 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 very relevant position, even at the moment you are making a whole lot of impact in the media world in the country. So I must congratulate your management and all of you who are holding sway in this particular wonderful medium.
We appreciate you for the compliments and thank you for the goodwill message. Have the best of the rest of your engagement, sir.
Thank you.
And that was Honorable Charles Aniagwu, who holds the dual responsibility of, on the one hand, being the chief image maker of Delta State in the office of the Honorable Commissioner of Information, and as well the Honorable Commissioner of Works, Rural and Riverine Roads. Well, ADBN Television has a core mandate of covering the Niger Delta, and we'll keep in touch with Niger Delta State as part of our core mandate in disseminating information and the deliverance of governance in those respective states in our coverage of news events and activities. Well, on the program this morning, we're not done just yet. We'll take a break, bring you a special report, and when we return, I'll hand you over to our sports desk with our sports editor joining us to discuss developments, particularly with Nigerian sprinter Favour Ofili raising quite the dust over the need to change her allegiance from Nigeria to Turkey. He'll tell you more about that and other stories. Stay with us.